Nobody wanted the assignment. Pella watched 3 of her fellow nurses shake their heads and walk away when the patient file appeared on the central screen. She did not understand why everyone acted so strange about it. "I will take it," she said, reaching for the data tablet. The head nurse, a wrinkled Jellian named Morvix, looked at her with something close to pity. "Are you sure, child? This one is different." Pella flicked her 4 arms in the Thalorian gesture of confidence. "I have worked on this station for 12 cycles. I have treated Finari with their acid blood. I have handled Dracian patients with their electrical skin. How different can this one be?" Morvix said nothing. She simply handed over the tablet and walked away. Pella looked at the file. The words glowed on the screen in standard galactic text. Species, human. Origin, Earth. Classification, pending. Medical status, unconscious. Cause, coolant leak exposure on cargo vessel. Human. She had heard stories about them. Everyone had. A new species that had only joined the galactic community 15 cycles ago. They came from some distant planet at the edge of explored space. The stories said strange things about them. Impossible things. Pella dismissed most of it as typical spacer exaggeration. She walked through the curved, white corridors of Medical Station Serenity 7. The station orbited a trade moon and served dozens of species from 3-star systems. Pella had seen almost everything in her time here. She was not easily impressed. The door to Treatment Room 14 slid open with a soft hiss. Pella stepped inside and immediately noticed something wrong. The room felt warm. Too warm. Her species came from a frozen methane world where temperatures stayed well below freezing. The station kept her work areas cool for her comfort, but this room felt like someone had turned on a heating unit. She checked the environmental panel on the wall. The settings showed normal. The cooling system was functioning properly. So why did the room feel so hot? Then she looked at the patient. The human lay on the treatment bed, unconscious but breathing steadily. He was a strange-looking creature. Only 2 arms, pinkish-brown skin, dark hair on his head and face. His chest rose and fell with each breath. He wore the simple jumpsuit of a cargo worker with a name stitched on the chest. Danny Reyes. Pella approached carefully. The closer she got, the warmer the air became. It was as if heat radiated from the human like a sun. She could feel it on her translucent blue skin, an uncomfortable prickling sensation. Impossible, she thought. Living things did not produce this much heat. Only machines did. Only engines and reactors and industrial equipment. She pulled out her biometric scanner, a standard medical tool that measured vital signs. Every nurse used one. Every nurse trusted them completely. The devices never failed. Pella aimed the scanner at the human's torso and pressed the activation button. A beam of light passed over his body, taking readings of his internal systems. Heart rate, respiratory function, blood pressure, and of course, core body temperature. The results appeared on the screen. Pella read them once, then twice, then 3 times. Core temperature, 37.2 degrees Celsius. That could not be right. That was hotter than any living creature she had ever treated. Most species on this station had core temperatures between -20 and +15 degrees. The Finari were considered extremely warm-blooded, and they only reached 22 degrees. 37 degrees was the temperature of heating coils, of industrial equipment, of things that could burn flesh. Pella grabbed a second scanner from the supply cabinet. She ran the scan again. The result was the same. 37.2 degrees. Her hands began to shake. Her large thermal-sensitive eyes, designed to see heat signatures in the dark of her frozen homeworld, could now perceive the glow coming from the human's body. He blazed like a torch, like something from a nightmare. She reached out with one trembling finger and touched his arm. Just barely. Just for a moment, the heat shocked her. It burned against her cold-adapted skin. She yanked her hand back with a gasp. How was he alive? How was he not cooking from the inside out? How could any creature survive with fire burning in their veins? She stumbled backward, hitting the wall panel with her shoulder. Her vision blurred. The room seemed to spin around her. She needed to call someone. She needed help. She needed to understand what kind of monster lay on that bed. Her finger found the communication button. Dr. Orvin, she said, her voice thin and shaking. Please come to treatment room 14. There is something wrong with the equipment. The readings cannot be correct. The response came quickly. On my way, Nurse Pella. She waited, pressed against the wall, keeping as far from the human as the small room allowed. Her hearts pounded in her chest. All three of them. The door opened and Dr. Orvin entered. He was an elderly Jellian with gray feathered scales and calm yellow eyes that had seen everything in a long medical career. He walked to the scanner, examined the readings, and made a soft clicking sound with his beak. The equipment is functioning correctly, he said. Pella stared at him. That is not possible. No living thing runs at 37 degrees. Dr. Orvin turned to face her. Almost do. They are endothermic apex predators from a Class 7 death world. Their bodies generate and regulate this temperature constantly. It is normal for them. The words hit Pella like a physical blow. Normal. This impossible heat was normal. How? She whispered. How is he not dead? Before Dr. Orvin could answer, the human's eyes opened. He sat up on the bed, looked around the room with confusion, and spoke. Where am I? What happened? Pella's vision went dark. The last thing she felt was the cold floor rushing up to meet her. Danny Reyes had woken up in strange places before. Cargo haulers who traveled the deep space routes learned to expect the unexpected. Engine failures, emergency landings, nights spent on unfamiliar stations waiting for repairs. But he had never woken up to find an alien doctor staring at him and an alien nurse lying unconscious on the floor. What the hell? He said, swinging his legs off the bed. Did I do something? Is she okay? The doctor, a bird-like creature with gray feathers and a sharp beak, raised one clawed hand in a calming gesture. Please remain still, Mr. Reyes. Nurse Pella simply experienced a shock. She will recover. Danny ignored the instruction. He jumped off the bed and knelt beside the fallen nurse. She was unlike anything he had seen before. Blue skin that seemed almost see-through. For thin arms. Large dark eyes that were currently closed. She looked fragile, delicate, like something made of glass. He reached out to check her pulse, the way his mother had taught him years ago. His fingers touched her shoulder. Pella's eyes snapped open. She let out a scream that echoed off the walls and scrambled backward across the floor, all four arms pushing her away from him. She hit the cabinet behind her and stopped, pressing herself against it, staring at Danny with pure terror. Please, she gasped. Please do not touch me. Danny held up his hands and backed away. I am sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. I was just trying to help. Dr. Orvin stepped between them, his calm presence filling the room. Everyone please relax. There's been no harm done. Nurse Pella, the human was only checking on your well-being. Mr. Reyes, I apologize for the reaction. Your species is quite new to this sector, and Nurse Pella has never treated a human before. Danny looked back and forth between them. I don't understand. What did I do? The doctor made a clicking sound with his beak. You exist, Mr. Reyes. That is enough. Please, sit back on the bed and I will explain. Danny sat. Pella remained on the floor, slowly catching her breath, her four arms wrapped around herself. She was still staring at him like he was a bomb about to explode. Humans, Dr. Orvin began, are what the galactic community classifies as Death Worlders. You evolved on a Class 7 planet with extreme conditions. High gravity, dangerous predators, toxic atmosphere compared to most inhabited worlds, violent temperature swings. Your species adapted to survive all of it. Danny shrugged. I mean, Earth has some rough spots, but it's home. What does that have to do with anything? Dr. Orvin gestured at the scanner on the table. Your core body temperature, Mr. Reyes. Do you know what it is right now? I don't know. Normal, I guess. Around 98, 99 Fahrenheit in galactic standard measurements. That is approximately 37 degrees Celsius. The doctor paused. Most species in the known galaxy maintain core temperatures between -20 and +20 degrees. The warmest species we regularly treat, the Fenari, peak at 22 degrees. You are nearly 15 degrees hotter than the hottest recorded sentient life form on this station. Danny blinked. So I'm warm. You are a furnace, Pella said from the floor. Her voice was steadier now, but still carried an edge of fear. You burn like an engine. When I touched your skin, it felt like pressing my hand against a heating unit. When I scanned you, I thought the equipment was broken because no living thing should be that hot. Danny looked at his own hands. They looked normal to him. They felt normal. He had never thought of himself as particularly hot. On cold nights back home, he still needed a blanket like everyone else. I had no idea, he said quietly. I didn't know I was different. Dr. Orvin made another clicking sound, softer this time. You are not different, Mr. Reyes. You are exactly what a human should be. It is the rest of the galaxy that is cold by your standards. We are the ones who would seem strange to you. Pella slowly rose to her feet, using the cabinet for support. She kept her distance, but no longer looked ready to run. How do you survive it? How does your body not destroy itself with all that heat? Danny thought about it. I guess we just regulate it. We sweat when it's too hot. We shiver when it's too cold. Our bodies figured it out a long time ago. You generate your own heat constantly, Dr. Orvin added. Endothermic biology. It allows you to function in environments that would kill most other species. You can survive in deserts and frozen wastelands. You can operate at any hour because you do not depend on external heat sources. It is a remarkable adaptation. Pella shook her head slowly. I read about humans in the medical database. I thought the information was exaggerated. I thought the stories were spacer tales meant to frighten new recruits. She paused, her large eyes meeting Danny's. They were not exaggerated, were they? I don't know what stories you heard, Danny said. I'm just a cargo hauler. I move boxes from one station to another. I'm not scary. You are terrifying, Pella said, but there was something new in her voice. Not just fear, curiosity. You carry enough heat inside you to kill me with a touch. And you had no idea. You just exist like this. Before Danny could respond, an alarm cut through the station. Red lights flashed on the walls. A voice spoke through the speakers in a language Danny did not understand, but his translator implant converted it automatically. Emergency medical response required at Docking Bay 3. Multiple casualties incoming. All available staff report immediately. Dr. Orvin moved toward the door. Pella straightened up, her professional training pushing past her shock. Danny stood as well, not knowing what to do, but feeling like he should do something. What's happening? He asked. Pella checked her tablet quickly. Her face went pale, even paler than before, which Danny had not thought possible. A transport ship with Villani passengers. Their heating system failed in transit. 23 younglings suffering from severe hypothermia. They are dying. She looked at Danny with an expression he could not read. They are dying because they are too cold, she said, and we may not have enough equipment to warm them in time. The emergency ward had become chaos. Pella had seen medical crises before. She had worked through disease outbreaks and accident responses and everything between. But she had never seen anything like this. 23 Villani younglings lay on beds arranged in rows across the large treatment room. They were small creatures, no bigger than her forearm, with soft gray fur and wide, innocent eyes. Their species came from a warm jungle world where temperatures never dropped below 30 degrees. They were built for heat. They needed heat to survive, and they were freezing to death. Pella moved between the beds, checking vital signs, adjusting thermal blankets, doing everything she could. But it was not enough. The children had been trapped in a broken transport ship for too long. Their small bodies had lost too much warmth. The station's heating equipment could not replace it fast enough. Core temperature on bed 7 dropping below critical. Another nurse called out. We are losing her. Dr. Orvin stood at the center of the room, coordinating the response. His normally calm demeanor showed cracks of stress. Increase heat output on all thermal units. Bring additional blankets from storage. Contact the Finari delegation and ask if any of their citizens can provide body heat assistance. A junior doctor shook his head. The Finari declined. They said they cannot risk their own health. Their temperature is not high enough to help anyway. Pella looked at the children. Their shivering had started to slow, but not because they were warming up. When a body stopped shivering, it meant the system was failing. It meant the end was close to. I in the corridor outside, Villani parents pressed against the observation window. Their cries of anguish came through the walls, muffled but heartbreaking. Pella saw a mother collapse against the glass, her small hands beating against it, calling for her child. There must be something else we can do, Pella said. There must be some option we have not tried. Nobody answered. Because there was no answer, the door to the treatment room slid open. Danny Reyes walked in. He still wore his cargo worker jumpsuit. He still looked confused and out of place. But his eyes moved across the room, taking in the scene, processing what he saw. "What's happening?" he asked. "What's wrong with them?" Pella turned to face him. Their ship's heating system failed. They were exposed to cold temperatures for hours. Villani require constant warmth to survive. Without it, their organs shut down. Their hearts stopped. Danny walked closer, looking at the small gray bodies on the beds. "They're just kids." "Yes." "And they're dying because they're cold." "Yes." "We cannot warm them quickly enough. Our equipment is not designed for this. Their bodies are too small. They lose heat faster than we can give it back." Danny stood very still. Pella could see him thinking. She could see the moment when an idea formed in his mind. His face changed. His posture shifted. "How warm do they need to be?" he asked the doctor. Orvin looked up from a nearby bed. "Their safe core temperature is 28 degrees minimum. They're currently averaging 19 degrees and dropping." Danny nodded slowly. "I run at 37 degrees. You said that earlier. 37 degrees, all the time, no matter what." Pella understood what he was suggesting. The idea was insane. It was unprecedented. It went against every medical protocol she knew. And yet, looking at the dying children, she could not think of a single reason to say no. "You would burn them," she said. "Your heat could damage their tissue." Danny shook his head. "I'll be careful. Skin-to-skin contact, controlled exposure. I'll hold them close, but not too tight. I'll let them take the warmth they need without forcing it." He paused. "I've held cold things before. Baby animals on my family's farm back home. Orphan calves that needed warmth to survive their first night. You wrap them up. You keep them close. You share what you have." Dr. Orvin stepped forward. "Mr. Reyes, what you are proposing has never been attempted. We have no data on human Villani thermal transfer. The risks are unknown." "What's the risk of doing nothing?" Danny asked. Nobody spoke. They all knew the answer. Doing nothing meant watching 23 children die. The door to the corridor slid open again. A Villani mother had somehow gotten past the security barrier. She was smaller than the children in the beds, her gray fur streaked with tears. She ran toward the nearest occupied bed, then stopped when she saw Danny. She stared up at him, this massive, warm creature standing in a room with her dying young. Through her translator, she spoke. Her voice broke with every word. "Please, please help. My daughter. She is the smallest. She will not last much longer. Please." Danny did not wait for permission. He did not wait for protocols or approvals or risk assessments. He walked to the bed where the smallest Villani child lay, her tiny chest barely moving with shallow breaths. He looked at Dr. Orvin, then at Pella, then at the mother. "I'm going to pick her up now," he said. "Tell me if I do anything wrong." He removed his jacket and rolled up his sleeves. Then, with hands that seemed impossibly large and gentle at the same time, he lifted the small, gray child and cradled her against his chest. The effect was immediate. Pella watched the monitor on the bed. The temperature reading, which had been falling steadily for the past hour, stopped falling. It held steady. Then, slowly, impossibly, it began to rise. The child's shivering returned. Strong shivering. Healthy shivering. The kind that meant her body was fighting again. Danny held her close, one hand supporting her head, the other wrapped around her small body. Heat poured from his skin into hers. He was a furnace, and she was a frozen creature who needed exactly what he had to give. The Villani mother fell to her knees and began to weep. Around the room, the other children stirred on their beds. Their large eyes opened, drawn by some instinct toward the warmth they could sense nearby. Small hands reached out toward Danny, grasping at the air. "More," one of them whispered through the translation system. "Please, more warm." Pella looked at Danny. He looked back at her and smiled, though his eyes were serious. "Looks like I've got more customers," he said. Help me figure out how to hold them all. 14 minutes. That was how long it took to arrange the first group. Pella worked alongside the other nurses, carefully lifting Villani children from their beds and placing them against Danny's body. He sat on the floor now, his back against the wall. The treatment beds were too narrow, too clinical for what needed to happen. The floor gave him space. It let him spread out, create a nest of warmth that the children could sink into. They piled against him like leaves against a stone. Some pressed against his chest, their small faces buried in his shirt. Others tucked under his arms, curling into the heat that radiated from his sides. A few climbed onto his lap, forming layers of gray fur and tiny reaching hands. Danny held as many as he could. When his arms could hold no more, the children simply leaned against him, touching whatever part of his body they could reach. An elbow, a knee, the side of his neck. Every point of contact became a lifeline. Pella monitored the vital signs from a safe distance. The numbers told a story she could barely believe. Temperature readings climbed on every child. Hearts that had been slowing found new strength. Breathing that had been shallow became deep and steady. Core temperature on patient 12 has reached 26 degrees, she reported. Patient 3 is at 25 and rising. Patient 19 just crossed into safe range at 28. Dr. Orvin stood nearby, his yellow eyes fixed on the scene before him. In all his years of medicine, across dozens of species and countless emergencies, he had never witnessed anything like this. Remarkable, he said quietly. Absolutely remarkable. Word spread through the station. Staff members who had no reason to be in the medical wing found excuses to walk past the treatment room. They gathered at the doorway, watching in silence. Fenari traders stood beside Jellian mechanics. Thalorian clerks pressed close to Dracian security officers. Species that rarely interacted with each other, united by curiosity and wonder. They watched a human save children by simply being warm. Danny seemed unaware of the audience. His attention stayed on the younglings pressed against him. He hummed softly, a melody that Pella did not recognize. Something old, she thought. Something from his homeworld. The children responded to it, their shivers easing into calm stillness. What does that sound? Pella asked. Danny looked up, seeming to notice her for the first time in several minutes. A lullaby. My grandmother used to sing it when I was small. I don't even remember the words anymore. Just the tune. It seems to comfort them. Music does that. Sound waves carry warmth too, in a way. Not physical warmth, but the kind that helps you feel safe. Pella considered this. Her people did not have music in the way humans described it. They communicated through chemical signals and subtle vibrations. The concept of using sound for comfort was foreign to her. But watching the Villani children settle against Danny, their small bodies relaxing, their eyes drifting closed in peaceful sleep rather than unconscious collapse, she began to understand that an hour passed. Then, too, the emergency that had threatened 23 lives slowly transformed into something else. The crisis faded. The children stabilized. One by one, they crossed from danger into safety, carried thereon waves of borrowed heat. The Villani parents were eventually allowed into the room. They approached slowly, uncertain how to react to the massive, warm creature holding their young. But fear gave way to gratitude when they saw their children sleeping peacefully against Danny's chest. The mother who had begged for help earlier knelt before Danny. Tears still marked her gray fur, but her expression had changed. Joy replaced despair. Hope replaced terror. "Thank you," she said through the translator. "Thank you for saving them. For saving her." Danny shifted carefully, making sure not to disturb the sleeping child in his arms. "I didn't do much. Just sat here. You gave him your warmth. You gave them your life heat. Among my people, that is the greatest gift one being can offer another." She placed her small hand on his knee, flinching slightly at the temperature but not pulling away. "You are touched by the stars. You carry a sun inside you." Danny did not know how to respond. His face reddened slightly, though Pella could not tell if it was embarrassment or simply more heat rising to his skin. Another parent approached, this one carrying a small cup filled with liquid. "Please," he said, "drink. You must be tired. You must need something." Danny accepted the cup and took a careful sip. The liquid was warm, almost hot by human standards, but clearly the Villani considered it refreshing. He smiled and nodded his thanks. More parents came forward. They brought blankets, though Danny hardly needed them. They brought food, strange fruits, and prepared dishes that smelled of spices Pella could not identify. They surrounded him with offerings, small tokens of a gratitude too large for words. Pella watched from across the room. She had feared this human just hours ago. She had screamed when he touched her. She had called him a furnace, a danger, a walking heat source that could burn without meaning to. Now she watched him sit covered in sleeping alien children, accepting gifts from tearful parents, humming a grandmother's lullaby on a medical station far from his home. She had been wrong about him. Not about the facts. He was still impossibly hot, still a death worlder from a nightmare planet, still capable of harming her with a careless touch. But she had been wrong about what those things meant. Doctor Orvin appeared beside her. You should rest, Nurse Pella. This has been a difficult shift. She shook her head. I want to see how it ends. The old doctor followed her gaze to Danny and the children. I believe, he said slowly, that we are witnessing something the galaxy has not seen before. A new kind of medicine. A treatment that cannot be replicated by any machine or drug. Human warmth, Pella said. Yes, human warmth. In every sense of the word. 6 hours had passed since the emergency began. The crisis was over. Every Villani child had reached safe temperature levels. The medical monitors showed stable readings across all 23 patients. What should have been a tragedy had become something else entirely. Danny Reyes sat exactly where he had been for most of those 6 hours. His legs had gone numb long ago. His back ached from leaning against the wall. His arms felt heavy from holding small bodies for so long. But he had not complained once. He had not asked to stop. He had simply sat there, giving warmth, until warmth was no longer needed. Most of the children had been returned to their parents now. Only 3 remained against Danny, too deeply asleep to move without waking. Their parents had agreed to let them rest a little longer, grateful for every moment of peace after so many hours of fear. Pella approached with a glass of water. She moved slowly, carefully, still aware of the heat that surrounded the human like an invisible field. You should drink something, she said. Humans require regular water intake. I read that in the medical files. Danny accepted the glass with his free hand. Thanks. My throat is pretty dry from all that humming. The children responded well to your vocalizations. We recorded the frequency patterns for future reference. Perhaps we can replicate them mechanically for similar emergencies. Danny smiled, a tired expression that somehow still carried warmth. Probably won't work as well. Kids know the difference between a machine and a real voice. They can tell when someone actually cares. Pella sat down on the floor nearby, maintaining a comfortable distance. May I ask you something? Sure. Why'd you do this? You did not know these children. You did not know their parents. You had no obligation to help. When you volunteered, you did not hesitate even for a moment. What? Danny considered the question while one of the sleeping children shifted against his chest. Her small hand gripped his shirt, holding tight even in sleep. Where I come from, you help kids. It doesn't matter whose kids they are. If a child needs help and you can provide it, you help. That's just how it works. But the risk to yourself, the discomfort, the hours of physical strain, these things did not concern you. They concern me a little. My back definitely concerned me about an hour ago. He shifted slightly, wincing. But what was the alternative? Sit in my treatment room and wait while children died in the next corridor? I couldn't do that. I don't think I'm built to do that. Pella processed his words. Her species valued logic and efficiency. They made decisions based on careful analysis of costs and benefits. What Danny described was something different, something that operated outside rational calculation. You act on instinct, she said, on feeling rather than thought. Sometimes, when it matters, when there isn't time to think. Danny looked down at the sleeping children. These little ones needed warmth. I have warmth. The math was pretty simple. The math, as you call it, required you to give part of yourself for strangers, to endure discomfort for beings you had never met. Most species would not make that calculation. Danny shrugged, careful not to disturb the younglings. Most species haven't met many humans. The smallest child, the one Danny had held first, began to stir. Her large eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, then gradually finding clarity. She looked up at Danny's face, studying him with the innocent curiosity that only children possess. "Warm," she said softly through the translator. "You are very warm." "I know," Danny said. "Is that okay?" The child nodded. Then she reached up with one small hand and touched Danny's cheek. Her parents made worried sounds from across the room, afraid she might hurt herself on his hot skin. But the child showed no discomfort. She simply explored his face with gentle fingers, learning the shape of the creature who had saved her life. "Like sunshine," she whispered. "You feel like sunshine." Danny's eyes grew wet. Pella watched something happen on his face, some deep emotion rising to the surface. He blinked rapidly, fighting against tears that wanted to fall. "That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me," he managed. The child smiled, a tiny expression that carried enormous weight. Then she wrapped her small arms around Danny's neck and hugged him. She held on tight, pressing her cheek against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Danny held her back, one large hand supporting her small body. A single tear escaped and ran down his face. He did not try to hide it. Pella felt something strange at her own chest, an unfamiliar sensation. Her species did not cry the way humans did. They did not express emotion through water from their eyes. But watching this moment, this connection between two beings from opposite ends of the galaxy, she understood why humans might need such a release. The other parents began to approach, ready to collect their children at last. But they moved slowly, reluctantly, as if they did not want to break the spell that had settled over the room. The station commander arrived, a tall Jellian with silver scales and ceremonial markings on her shoulders. She took in the scene with sharp eyes, missing nothing. "Mr. Reyes," she said formally, "on behalf of Medical Station Serenity 7 and the Galactic Union, I wish to express our deepest gratitude for your actions today. You have saved 23 lives through extraordinary personal sacrifice." Danny looked up at her, still holding the small child against his chest. "I didn't sacrifice anything. I just sat here." The commander made the clicking sound that Jellians use to express disagreement. "You gave your time, your comfort, and your body heat to strangers in need. Among many species, such generosity is unheard of. Among humans, it seems to be natural." She paused, studying him with an expression Pella could not read. "Perhaps," the commander continued, "the galaxy has much to learn from your kind." Danny seemed uncomfortable with the praise. He shifted his attention back to the child in his arms, gently transferring her to her waiting parents. The little one protested briefly, reaching back toward Danny with grabbing hands. But her mother soothed her with quiet words. One by one, the remaining children were collected. Each parent paused to thank Danny. Some bowed, some wept, some simply touched his hand, flinching at the heat but refusing to pull away. When the last child was gone, Danny sat alone on the floor, surrounded by emptiness where warmth had been needed. That he looked exhausted. He looked drained. And somehow, he looked happier than Pella had ever seen another being look. "Are you all right?" she asked. Danny smiled his tired smile. "Yeah, I think I am." 2 days had passed since the emergency. Danny's ship had been repaired. His cargo had been transferred. There was no reason for him to remain on Medical Station Serenity 7 any longer. His route waited. His employers expected delivery. The life of a cargo hauler did not pause for heroics. Pella found him in the docking bay, running final checks on his small freighter. The ship looked old and worn, patched in several places with mismatched metal. It was clearly a working vessel, not a fancy transport. Just a tool for a man who moved things from place to place. "You are leaving," she said. Danny looked up from his console. "Yeah, gotta get back to work. These protein supplements won't deliver themselves." Pella approached slowly. She had practiced what she wanted to say, but now the words seemed inadequate. "I wanted to speak with you before you departed." "Sure. What's on your mind?" She stopped a few feet away, still respecting the boundary between his warmth and her cold adapted body. I wish to apologize. When we first met, I screamed when you touched me. I fainted when I read your temperature. I treated you like a dangerous creature. Danny waved his hand dismissively. Don't worry about it. I would probably react the same way if I met someone with negative body temperature. Actually, I'd probably think they were dead. But you're not dangerous. That is what I have learned. Or rather, you are dangerous in the way that all powerful things are dangerous. But you choose not to be. You use your nature to help rather than harm. She paused, gathering courage for the next words. You terrified me, Danny Reyes, and now I think you have given me hope. Danny set down his tool and gave her his full attention. Hope? For what? For the galaxy. For the future. Pella gestured at the window, where stars burned cold and distant against the black. There are many species out there. Some are cruel. Some are indifferent. Some see others only as resources to exploit or obstacles to remove. When I heard that humans were Deathworlders, I assumed you would be the same. Survivors of a harsh world, hardened into something brutal. We can be brutal, Danny admitted. Humans aren't always good. We've done terrible things to each other and to our planet. I won't pretend otherwise. But you also do what you did here. You give warmth to strangers. You hold dying children simply because they need to be held. You cry when a small girl calls you sunshine. Pella took a breath. Perhaps that is what makes Deathworlders different. You know what it means to struggle, so you help others who struggle. You know what it means to survive, so you help others survive. Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, softer than before, without his usual tired humor. That's probably the nicest thing anyone said about my species. Usually we just get warnings and threat assessments. The threat assessments are not wrong. You are genuinely dangerous, but I think they are incomplete. Pella reached into her uniform pocket and withdrew a small data chip. I have something for you. A gift, though it may seem strange. Danny took the chip. What is it? I have updated the medical database entry for humans. The old entry focused on physical dangers. High temperature, death world origin, potential risks during contact. I have added new information. She paused. I noted that humans maintain core temperatures of 37 degrees, that they are endothermic and generate their own heat constantly. And I added a recommendation. What kind of recommendation? I wrote the human classification should be changed from dangerous to protective. That medical staff should exercise appropriate caution but should not be afraid. I wrote that humans burn bright, but they burn bright for others. Danny looked at the chip in his hand. His expression shifted through several emotions that Pella could not fully read. Surprise, gratitude, something deeper that she did not have a word for. Thank you, he said finally. That means a lot. It is accurate. It is what I observed. My people value truth, and this is the truth I witnessed. Danny tucked the chip into his pocket. Then he did something Pella did not expect. He extended his hand toward her, palm open, fingers slightly spread. This is a human gesture. We call it a handshake. It's how we say goodbye to someone we respect. It's how we say we hope to meet again. Pella looked at his hand. She remembered the heat she had felt when she first touched him, the burning sensation that had made her recoil. But she also remembered watching him hold 23 children against that same heat, giving them exactly what they needed to live. Slowly, she placed one of her 4 hands in his. The warmth was still uncomfortable. It still pressed against her cold-adapted skin like something almost painful. But she did not pull away. She held on, meeting his eyes, accepting the sensation as the price of connection. Goodbye, Danny Reyes, she said. I hope to meet you again. Goodbye, Pella. Take care of yourself. And thanks for not letting me die when I first came in. That would have been awkward. She made the Thalorian equivalent of a laugh, a soft clicking of her throat plates. You were never in danger of dying. Your species is remarkably durable. We try. He released her hand and turned back to his ship. She watched him climb the boarding ramp, watched him pause at the top to wave one final time, watched the hatch close behind him. Minutes later, the freighter undocked and drifted toward open space. Pella stood at the observation window, her 4 hands folded across her chest, watching the small vessel shrink against the stars. The galaxy was vast. Cold and dark, and full of dangers she could not imagine. But somewhere out there, humans move through the void.